Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Our guest today works with the RainCoast Conservation Foundation, a nonprofit empowered by research to protect the lands, waters, and wildlife of coastal British Columbia. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please like, share, and subscribe. This episode is sponsored by Hollyhock, dedicated to helping create a better future via education and personal sharing, guys. But without further ado, we are so happy to have on the show today. Please welcome Chelsea Greer. How are you doing today? So nice to meet you and talk to you.
Yeah, you as well. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is fun. This is fun. It's great having you on, Chelsea. I really appreciate you, taking the time. And you're over in North Vancouver too. That's where I am. Dev's out in Richmond, and so we're actually pretty close here, which is kind of cool because we interview people from all over the world, and to have somebody like a 2-minute drive away, that's an anomaly. It's pretty cool. So what we do first is we try not to embarrass you too much. But what we do is we do something called 2 truths and a lie. So you've sent us a couple of points and with some things that are true about you, and then maybe 1 or 2 lies sprinkled in there. And Devin and I have to guess which is the lie. Okay.
Oh,
all right. So Dev, you ready?
Yep. Ready.
Okay. Number 1. I currently have 31 houseplants in my apartment.
Oh, nice.
That sounds like you, Dev.
It does, yeah.
Got all your
I'm
succulents.
cover my face because I feel like I'm a really bad liar, so I'm not going to give anything away.
Okay, yeah, the deadpan. You got to do that. Okay, let's see. Okay, number 2. I studied the behavior of Asian elephants in northern Thailand for my master's research. Wow. Really cool. I got some questions to ask you about that, but that may be the lie. I don't know. Okay, number 3. Wow. Similar to a specially trained dog, this one's crazy. I can smell urine left by an animal, i.e., a scent mark, right? And discern it if it's from a wolf, a coyote, or a deer.
Yo, that's cool.
Man, that's like Farley Mullet stuff going way back. Oh my gosh. Okay, number 4 here.
Oh, there's
there's a couple more here. I have volunteered at various local environmental and animal advocacy groups, including the SPCA, Fur Bearers, Society for Humane Science, and the Vancouver Aquarium's Marine Mammal Rescue Center, which is what we just we were talking about that because that's interesting. And okay, last one here. I have never seen a wolf in the wild. Oh, well, they're pretty stealthy. They're pretty because she's a coordinator of the wolf conservation program with these guys with RainCoast, right? So, but not see. Yeah, it's okay. So, what do you think, Dev? What do you think is the?
I don't know. The wolf in the wild one might be a plant, but
might be a plant.
For some reason, I felt like the whole thing about Asian elephants, maybe it was actually on African elephants, and that was like a play right there. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay, you're gonna go with the wolf in the wild. I'm gonna
go with. I think that it was about African elephants, not Asian elephants.
Oh, I see. Right.
Just send something. Just throw something.
I'm gonna go with the wolf in the wild.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Drum roll, Chelsea.
Lock it in. Trick too. I threw in the I have never seen a wolf in the wild as a trick. I thought it would throw you off. So
yeah. Damn. Okay.
So I feel like the one that is the lie, I think, is kind of the most obvious. It's kind of the most wild one, similar to a specially trained dog. You're left by an animal.
Yeah.
But it comes from, it's not like I just totally made that up out of the blue. So my advisor and our senior scientist at RainCoast, Dr. Paul Paquette, we, talk on the phone weekly, and he shares a lot of interesting things with me. And he was saying, because when we were talking about research and kind of what you can do to track animals and what kind of information you can gather by just what they leave behind.
Yes.
And he was saying that they were out kind of surveying an area looking for signs of coyotes and wolves and ungulates, so deer, elk, moose, kind of seeing like where coyotes and wolves might overlap. And so they were looking at the scent marks left by those animals. And his graduate student started, I guess, smelling the scents. And by the end, like just with practice, like apparently they're very distinct and fairly easy to differentiate, but she could take in the scent marks and tell if it was a wolf, coyote, or an ungulate.
Wow. That is
really, it's so fascinating.
It
and
is.
I hope one day that I will be able to do that.
Wow. Because I remember when I was a kid, like the big book that we had to read in school was Farley Mowat's is it Call of the Wild, or what's the name of the book? Oh my gosh. He was a very famous Canadian author. And the whole thing was about tracking wolves and living with wolves, and the way he would analyze their scat. And he would go and he'd dig through and he'd find out if they were healthy by, the little mouse bones or whatever he'd find in there. And yeah, it was really, actually I should reread that. I was pretty young when I read it, but it's like an iconic, I think, is it called Call of the Wild? I don't even remember.
Call of the Wild. I think you're right.
Is that what it was? Farley Mowat? Yeah. Yeah. And the author, he actually spent time living with the wolves and studied them. And yeah, really outdoors. So there's another one here. So what about the elephants? Like, was that in Chiang Mai? Where were you in northern Thailand?
Yeah, so it was really close to Chiang Mai, so about 5 hours west.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of in this, so it was with my master's research, and kind of the main goal of the research was kind of to try and better understand the behavioral and ecological needs of elephants that had been rescued from captive settings and then transitioned into a rewilded life. So the research was done through this NGO called Mahout's Elephant Foundation, who had collaborated with a Karen Mahout community, so I don't have either of you been to Thailand?
Yeah, I was just wondering, because we were in Chiang Mai a few times, and we went to there was a bit of a elephant sanctuary that we did go to, but it wasn't 5 hours out. It was, I don't think, or maybe it was, I don't know.
Elephant Nature Park?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
There's one that's really accessible in Chiang Mai.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. I mean, this was back in 2000, I think, when we went there. It was a long time ago. And then we were back a little bit more recently, but yeah, amazing. And then we actually went to an elephant rescue in Kenya a few years ago, where, I mean, it's a really sad story, because the little babies, right? I guess they dig wells, and they abandon wells all over parts of Kenya, and the little guys fall in and they can't get out and they die. So the rescue center saves these little baby elephants and had them in the sanctuary, and we went and visited that too. And I think our daughter adopted one of the elephants there too. They're fascinating.
Yeah, they're amazing. And in Thailand, it's kind of this, I wouldn't say unique, because it's kind of with Asian elephants because of their long history with humans. There's so many in captivity. So, there's so many elephant tourism camps, and there are some in Thailand, maybe a handful, that are really great in terms of welfare conditions, but there are so many that are just absolutely terrible. And that it's an interesting separation between these two populations, because legally wild elephants are designated as an endangered species. So they have all sorts of protections. And then you have the domesticated captive elephants who, have that label of domesticated, but biologically speaking, they are not domesticated. They're the exact same species as the ones that live free, but they're awarded very different rights legally. So the captive elephants are treated like livestock, so that they can be sold, traded at will, and are worth large sums of money. So it's very complex, and that's kind of where this project was really unique, because they're partnering with Mahout communities who have this long history of traditional elephant caretaking, and they have, the traditional ecological knowledge and all this experience with elephants. And, it's their livelihood. They own these elephants, and sometimes they're forced to leave their families and go into the cities to make money in the tourism industry. So this is kind of this more community-driven solution where they can bring their elephants back to their villages, they can live free in the forest, and then have this more sustainable, welfare-friendly ecotourism model where people can come and stay in their village and then go out and watch the elephants. So there's no contact or anything.
Right. Wow. So then what got you interested? So we go from elephants to wolves. I don't know if that's a big,
Yeah.
big switch or
Yeah, I
not, but
mean,
that's,
very different species, but
yeah. Yeah.
part of the reason was, in my lab, I was actually part of the Canid Conservation Science Lab at the University of Calgary. It was just kind
Mm,
of a unique situation. So my supervisor and my lab mates focused on coyotes and wolves.
okay.
So that kind of sparked my interest while I was studying elephants. And then I did an internship and I kind of, got funding and was like, RainCoast is where I want to be. So I
Mhm.
reached out to them and I did an internship while I was finishing grad school. And
Right. Right.
yeah, and I mean, the species are obviously very different, but they're both very socially complex species. So there's a lot of similarities there with just the
Mm.
way they interact with their environment and each other and create these, intimate social bonds with one another
Exactly.
and
Yeah, they do,
pass
don't they?
down
Yeah.
knowledge from
Mm.
generation to generation.
Yeah.
So they're
Highly
both,
intelligent,
yeah, highly
both the
intelligent.
elephants and the wolves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a sense of I mean, the sense of community between both. I get, yeah, it's interesting. Never thought about that. The community with elephants, because they're always in a large community, and then wolves as well in the pack and the hierarchy. And yeah, it's super interesting. So with Raincoast, so what do you guys do at Raincoast Conservation? So you're an NGO, right? And I don't know if I asked you a question like, so what makes you different than some of the, say there's the Wilderness Committee and I'd say Greenpeace and guys like that or whatnot. What's is there a difference between all of you? Do you operate together? Do you guys work together? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, RainCoast, I'd say, first of all, we're a team of conservationists and scientists empowered by
Mm.
our research to protect the land, waters, and wildlife of coastal British Columbia.
Right.
And part of our kind of set of
And you're
tools,
specifically British Columbia? Sorry.
specifically British Columbia,
Okay.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the species that we focus on are transboundary species like southern resident killer whales, wolves
Mhm.
as well, So we do have, we're registered as well in the States, and we do try and partner with folks in the States as well. And, a lot of our donors are from the States as well. But, what makes us really unique is in kind of the tools that we use to progress our conservation objectives is rigorous peer-reviewed science,
Mm.
public education, and community engagement. And we call this approach informed advocacy.
Right.
So, instead, in addition to paying lip service to science, we also produce primary science on the ground.
Right.
And a big part of that is, our collaborations with Indigenous nations as well,
Mhm.
Indigenous governments. We have longstanding relationships with many of the nations where our research is conducted. And I think that's one of the things that makes us really unique is, our relationships as well as our science. And then another big thing, which is a huge
Mhm.
part of the WOLF program, is just how we really advocate for conservation ethics. In conservation science, sometimes ethics is left out of the conversation.
Sure.
And we really think it's very important, especially, when we're talking about wolves. We can talk about, their ecological role, their economic benefit to the land,
Mhm.
but ethics is such an important part of the conversation because of the way that they're treated, the way that they're killed, and
Yeah.
it's important to the public as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you said. You said about advocacy, like people actually kind of taking part, and but a huge component of this, and what we found is that it's education. Education is key to everything. Educating people, and what you guys do is you guys have a wolf school as well, right? Where you actually, I guess, bring people in and you're teaching them about wolves and et cetera, et cetera. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've just done one series, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping to
Mhm.
get a second one going in the fall. So we kind of bring in different organizations, individuals from the nations that we work with, that are kind of, doing work that's aligned, that cares about wolves and kind of advocates for wolves. And part of this too is, we like to talk to conservation photographers as well.
Yes.
We do have a photography ethics policy as well, and kind of talking about, the importance of maintaining a certain level of ethics when you're entering into the space of an animal, as well as with people too, maintaining that ethic of sharing photos and information about people. But yeah, with Wolf School, also just what we really want to inform people about too is the current situation for wolves in BC and the current management of wolves, because a lot of people that I talk to kind of just in everyday conversations just have no idea kind of what goes on and how wolves are treated.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some stats here that said over 1,200 wolves are killed annually in BC for recreational purposes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or that's
so
a lot of...
yeah, so there's multiple different, I'll just say broadly, the management of wolves are done for multiple purposes. So we have like government sanctioned wolf calls where they're removing entire packs of wolves in caribou habitat. And then we have recreational hunting and trapping. And then we have just predator control in terms of any conflicts that may arise between livestock owners and wolves. And with the recreational hunting and trapping, so there's an open season on wolves that runs from September to June. So there's only really 3 months out of the year where wolves kind of have that relief of not being hunted, although illegal hunting is a serious problem as well. And, the regulations are extremely lax. There is, no quota, no specific species tag, which makes it really complicated to actually know how many wolves are being killed. So that 1,200 number is an estimate. So out of all the hunters that hunt one season, they'll, send out a survey to 20% of them, I think. And they'll base the estimate off of that. And even in the management plan, they admit that it's, not really a rigorous way and reliable way to estimate the numbers. And, Paul Paquette, our senior scientist, would say that it's likely a lot higher than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you guys, so there is a positive thing here too, that you guys have, you now control the commercial hunting rights in 5 tenures. You have 5 tenures, I guess, and the land mass of those tenures altogether, I guess, it's about 38,000 square kilometers in BC, right? And so to put that into perspective here, it's larger than Vancouver Island, or also you guys say the country of Belgium. So that's, I mean, it's fairly big, but it's I guess we could do a lot more than that. But so you're actually able to control commercial hunting in those 5 areas, is that right? Or
so it was something that started kind of the journey towards this idea, this strategy kind of stemmed from RainCoast's long history of trying to end the hunting of grizzly bears.
Right.
In the Great Bear Rainforest and across BC. And RainCoast was founded in 1996. And from that time onwards, we've been advocating for the end of trophy hunting of grizzly bears. And in 2001, our efforts resulted in a 3-year moratorium on grizzly hunting province-wide. But then we had a shift in government shortly after that. So this ban was only in effect for 1 spring hunting season. And when the new government came in, which I believe it was Gordon Campbell, and I think it was the first thing that they did was reverse the moratorium on hunting. So it kind of inspired this new strategy where it's like, with a moratorium, policy can just always change, so how can we permanently protect these animals? And RainCoast, Chris Genevali, our executive director, and many others started looking into these hunting tenures and kind of found out that they could be bought and sold. So 2005 was when we first bought our first commercial hunting tenure, another in 2015, 2016, 2018, and then 2020. And like you said, it's now a total of 38,000 square kilometers. And so
is one of those the Great Bear Rainforest area? Is that one of them, or?
So it's all in the Great Bear Rainforest.
It's all in the Great Bear Rainforest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the total that we have now, I believe, is over half of the Great Bear Rainforest right now. And then we have our current campaign right now we call it the Southern Great Bear Rainforest tenure, and it's over 18,000 square kilometers. And once we purchase that, we'll have the commercial hunting rights. I believe it's for over 85% of the Great Bear Rainforest. So there's only a couple more tenures to purchase. And our goal is to end commercial hunting in all of Great Bear Rainforest. So we're getting close to accomplishing that. But this one is kind of one of the biggest that we've purchased, or I believe it is the biggest. Our first one was the largest. It was 25,000 square kilometers. And this one now is over 18. And yeah, it has a significant population of grizzlies, black bears, wolves, Roosevelt elk,
Kermode bears.
Yeah. And the spirit bear, I mean, one of our tenures, we called it the spirit bear tenure. It supported the Kitasoo, Hay-Hays, and the Gayat First Nations, and it covered virtually all of the habitat in the iconic spirit bear habitat.
Right.
And it's important to note too, it is legal to kill a black bear. So it's illegal to kill a spirit bear, but you can kill a black bear that contains that recessive gene that creates the spirit bear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because that's what it is. It's a recessive gene, and it's white or blonde. Yeah, incredible. And it's funny because we're interviewing CPAWs, the parks guys, and in a couple of weeks here, and they're talking about the Great Bear Sea, which will basically go from, I guess, the Great Bear Rainforest, I think, all the way up to Haida Gwaii or something, and protecting a lot of that area too. So it's just fantastic. When I was younger, used to do a lot of backpacking and climbing and stuff, and I remember my buddy and I, we did a camping trip in Banff in Sunshine, and we went out around the Assiniboine. Well, you probably know that area, Calgary originally, right? So
I'm not from Calgary. So
you're not from Calgary. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Just went to school there.
Oh, you went to just went to school there. Yeah. If it's but we did I don't know, like a 7-day trip, but then at night setting up our tent, just in the distance, the howling of the wolves was just the most. I never heard a wolf before. It was just like, I never forget it. Like it's eerie, but it's amazing. And they would follow us. It would, like, for 7 days, they were always there. And they would always be, making their howling at night, and we'd camp in our tent, and it's just magical. And I've heard that I guess caribou, I don't know if it's caribou, maybe it's caribou, the populations are starting to come back, even like in Squamish, and then wolves and whatnot, they're all kind of following. So, and wolf populations is that right? Like around the Squamish Valley and up, I mean, maybe above Whistler as well. I don't know.
I'm not too sure, like in that particular region, but wolves are extremely resilient, and their range was, all across North America, and they've been exported from most of the lower 48 states. I mean, British Columbia has one of the larger populations of wolves, but, they're resilient in the sense that they, we can remove them and they come back if there is sufficient amount of food. So if there are large populations of deer, elk, moose, they're likely to come back. But that is kind of one of, in this program, in this campaign, an important thing to note as well is, they are very resilient at the population level, but it's important to also recognize that their populations are made up of individuals. So just because, their populations are resilient doesn't mean we can kill thousands of them every year.
Right. Yeah,
still,
exactly.
Taking the lives of those individual animals.
I mean, talking about killing thousands of them, I just got back. I was in the UK for 3 weeks, and my wife and I, we did a trek across northern Scotland for 7 days up over the moors and the glens and all. It was magical. And here when you go hiking, if you're out in the bush, you're always kind of got your ear open looking for, maybe there's a cougar or bears. Bears are usually okay, and you're always kind of got a little bit of looking around. I realized in the UK, you don't have to worry about it because there are no wild animals left.
Yeah.
Like everything was killed off 1,000 years ago, 15. I don't know what it is, but most of Europe, there are no wild animals. I mean, I was with my cousin and we're trekking along, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a chipmunk. Look at that. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's a chipmunk. Okay. It puts it into perspective. When you go to places, you go to Europe, and you realize all the wild animals, pretty much everything was was eradicated 1,000 years ago. There is nothing. There's nothing. There's no wolves. There's no bears. There's no. I mean, maybe in I don't know, maybe in Russia or something, but most of Europe, everything was just it's mind-boggling being from Canada, or I was born in the UK, but living in Canada, that we have wild animals. We just assume that the rest of the world, but it's not. The rest of the world is not like us. So we're killing our wild animals as well. It's just, it blows me away that, what happens. Yeah.
And when you, like in the UK, when you take away a predator, like they have no predators, so they have to, manage their ungulate populations and, do it in a way that a predator would, because, with hunters, there is often conflict between wolves in the sense that they're worried that, they're going after the same species, and, the wolves are going to kill all the deer and the elk. And, they have to eat, but at the same time, hunters and wolves target very different individuals. We see that wolves target, the young, the weak, the old, and often the diseased. So they're, keeping those populations healthy, and hunters are going after more, the more healthy adult deer. But it's interesting, like when there's no predators around, it's not just the predator-prey relationship in the sense of the predator is killing the prey. It's, them influencing the movements of those ungulate species that are grazers, and just having that impact on the environment and the plant species. Because, when they create like having a predator present kind of creates this kind of, they call it like a landscape of fear, where these deer or elk aren't going to overgraze certain areas. They're going to always be alert, vigilant. It might affect kind of their specialty niches. And it has such an impact on the biodiversity, and can really make room for other species to flourish as well. And those are kind of the important things, that it's not just this one predator-prey relationship. There's just a whole cascade of impacts that having predators present can have on an ecosystem that is just so important. So like, even when we're removing all these wolves, and kind of, maybe the numbers are saying that like, it's fine, they're going to rebound, but we don't know the impacts of what that's going to have. Removing an entire pack from an ecosystem that's already struggling, likely from industrial logging, and they're removing a predator, and there's no assessments really being done on like what that impact on the ecosystem is.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a balance. It's a fine balance, symbiotic relationship type thing. This might be a silly question, but like, why do people like recreationally hunt wolves? Do you just for like pelts and trophy hunting, or like, I don't really know a lot about this.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I think, a whole suite of reasons. A lot of it is very gratuitous hunting to, fulfill the ego. And we have a long history of, conflicts with wolves, in the sense that like, when colonization happened, what was brought over was agriculture, and that kind of created this conflict between wolves and livestock. So that's just this long history, and people have these really deep-rooted perceptions and ideas surrounding wolves, that unfortunately it's just, I mean, it's trophy hunting, in the sense that I think there'll be a variety of reasons that a hunter may say why they kill a wolf, but also to kind of bolster game populations. They want to hunt elk in an area, and they're worried about seeing wolves, so they go out and kill all the wolves.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'd say like, overall, I mean, if you're not killing for food, I would say it's trophy hunting. It's killing for, that accomplishment of just killing, which is hard to understand.
It's beyond me. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just, I mean, when I was a kid, another thing, when I was a kid, I was like 7, 8 years old. I was in the Cub Scouts, right? A lot of kids were in the Cub Scouts back then. And I've never really, it's really strange. We would come to Cub Scouts, and we'd have this big old green box, and one of the Sixers or whatever would go and open up the green box, and he would take out a wolf's head, right? A wolf's head. And we would put it on a stick in the middle of the room, and we'd all dance around doing our do. And I just, that was normal for us. I mean, I look back at that, I'm like, oh, that was completely crazy. We were dancing around a wolf's head. It's just like Lord of the Flies, you know? Yeah, it's just, it just became, I guess it was just normal. And that's what these things are. It's just normal. Well, we go out and kill wolves, but it's not normal anymore to kill these apex predators.
Yeah. And I think that brings to the point of like the growing opposition to trophy hunting. RainCoast scientists did a recent publication called the Eroding Social License to Hunt Large Carnivores. And, they reviewed polling and survey data to show that, like the vast majority of the public of British Columbians oppose trophy hunting. They support hunting for food, which I would like to say and emphasize that RainCoast as well is in full support of hunting for food. Right. But, there's these misaligned values. And with what we saw with the grizzly bear hunt. So as I was saying, that reverse that happened on the moratorium in 2017, when the NDP government came in, there now is a ban on grizzly bear hunting. And what they cited wasn't necessarily because, the government was always asserting that the hunt was sustainable and all that. But what they cited in that ban was misaligned public values, extensive public polling. And that's where it really, highlights the fact that it's not, science is so important, but it's also when we're thinking about policy, social opinion and values of the public is so important as well.
An educated public. That's it's the education. I just love like with what you're doing, like the wolf school and educating the kids, because it's the kids that are coming up through the schools. So they'll be the older kids, in 5 or 10 years in the universities, in the governments, and it's educating the kids on all of this stuff. And without the education, we just keep doing what we're doing. It's it's so important. It's so important what you guys are doing. It's fantastic. Yeah.
And I think with like the younger generations too, it's not even necessarily starting with this is what happens to wolves in BC, but like sharing all the amazing information about like wolf behavior and ecology and their social lives, and just inspiring, kids can get so motivated and inspired when they learn all these cool things about animals or their environment. And I think kind of fostering that compassion and love and interest for animals really do wonders in the future, and kind of motivate those individuals to share with others and actually, make some action happen and protect the wolves and the environment and our world.
Yeah. Like you said, the kids spending time and understanding and, the value of the wolves and the way they nurture each other in their pack and their social hierarchy and everything, as opposed to me when I was a kid. Well, we're going to take this wolf's head out of a box, stick it on a stick. That's what it was like. We're talking 40, 50 years ago, but yeah, it's crazy now. I think the kids are, the ability to educate and some of the programming on public television and whatnot is just absolutely phenomenal. I'm glued to all of this stuff. That's all we watch. My wife and I watch Knowledge Network constantly. That's it. Because there's so many really good programs as opposed to watching all this goofy, stupid stuff. And you learn so much. I'm just so like, it's like, we're going to click it on and we're watching, anything from the northern caribou to the wolves and then a lot of, the salmon to the whales. And it's just fantastic. And groups and organizations are so important, like you guys and what you're doing. And so if people want to help with helping your organization, because you do a lot of other things. There's the southern resident killer whales. There's all this other, the grizzly bears. There's the wolves. There's all this. How do they get involved? I guess how do they get involved is one thing, and then also contribute if they want to contribute.
So I think I shared some links with you that'll probably be posted on the podcast. But
Yes.
Our wolf program is always in need of support for just, making because part of what we do is, this on the ground research.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, we'll always need support and appreciate it. Volunteering is always a great way to get involved if you really want to be involved hands-on. And always, watching our website. We have, especially in the summer, we have lots of job postings. And, specifically for the Great Bear Rainforest or the Southern Great Bear Rainforest tenure, that is one of our current campaigns. And it's been going on for about 6 months now. And, it's a over $2 million campaign. So if you want your money to go towards something that's tangible, that it's going to, really see a result, it's over a quarter of the Great Bear Rainforest. And so that support will help protect all those species from commercial trophy hunting.
Fantastic. Do you have any further questions or anything there for Chelsea?
You know what I do? I got one for you. All right.
Yeah.
Let's say, like, hypothetically, if you could go back and give some points of wisdom that you've acquired over the years to a younger version of yourself, what would you say?
Oh, that's a good question.
When you were like getting ready to get into all this stuff, when you're
I would say just like, don't worry about the time, because I've always been so hard on myself for like taking so long in school. And I think back, like I always had such an immense love and compassion towards animals, but I never really thought of it as a career. And, I went to school for kinesiology, was about to go to UBC to finish my degree. And I was like, no, I want to work with animals. It was that one conversation with like a biology teacher who I actually wanted to like work with captive animals.
Right.
And she pointed me towards this program at UBC. It's the Land and Food Systems program, and it's the Applied Animal Biology program that talks a lot about animal welfare. And it opened my eyes to how terrible captivity is, and also how animal welfare applies to wild populations. And I always really wanted to work with wildlife. Or that was where like my curiosity was. And so it's been like such a long journey, but everything that I've done, I'm like, this was because I was here at the right time. Not to say like it was, my effort as well, but if I had finished school 2 years earlier, like I wouldn't have had this opportunity to be a researcher in Thailand, and I wouldn't have then gone on to do my master's with elephants, and then I wouldn't have been in the Canid Conservation Science Lab and then found RainCoast, like all these things. So I think that would be my advice, is just kind of enjoy the journey, because, you got time. And
that's awesome. It's really nice, because people like, and especially girls, girls like yourself, are real inspiration for younger girls. I'm just thinking of my daughter and Devin's sister here, that she's 22 and she's just kind of getting started, and she's so into animals, and she just got taken on as a volunteer at the the Marine Mammal Rescue at the Vancouver Aquarium, and then she's got a dog walking thing, and she's just like we said, she likes animals more than us humans. and my niece too, Lucy. I got a big shout out for Lucy Willis over on Vancouver Island. She's 17, and she got accepted for this summer up working with the killer whales up on the north coast there off, is it Port Renfrew? I can't remember the name of the place. So it's just awesome to see. And so people like yourself are such a huge inspiration to these younger girls and younger people that want to make a difference, and they may not know what to do or where to start. And that's always everything with all of us. Is like, I don't know what to do. I want to help, but I don't know what to do. So listening to you and being such an inspiration to all these other kids, I think it's fantastic. And this is like, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go off to Thailand and I'll work with elephants. Maybe, who knows? But it's fantastic. So thanks so much. Yeah. All right, Dev,
guys, I think we're going to wrap it on that. Guys, thank you so much for listening today. If you'd like to know more, we're going to put everything in the links in the description of the video. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Chelsea. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks, Chelsea, and have an awesome weekend.
You too. Enjoy the sunshine.